Is it audible now, Gayatri? Am I audible now? Okay. So I am Rahul Saha, and today we will be discussing about more about the good evening, Samesh, more about the human brain. And we had discussed about the prosencephalon, the mesencephalon, the myelencephalon, all those things we had discussed, right? So now we'll be discussing about more about the thalamus, more about the epithalamus, the diencephalon region completely, okay? And then we'll be coming back to the cerebellum, and then we'll be coming back to the most fundamental unit of the nervous system, which is known as the neuron. Okay, so coming on to the diencephalon region. Okay, so when we talk about the diencephalon region, so a diencephalon region is the division of the brain that consists of three things that I had told you: epithalamus, thalamus, and hypothalamus. So I can write here. So diencephalon, if you talk about, it's a very important region. Epithalamus, thalamus, and hypothalamus. Now you can think of these things by their, or you can think of the location of these things by their name only. Okay, by their name only means what? Epi means top, then thalamus, hypo means down. That is the meaning of hypothalamus. Always know this, that you have the epidural membrane, or epidural space means top of the dura, then subdural, then arachnoid. I say subarachnoid means under the arachnoid space. Subarachnoid means we will be having the cerebrospinal fluid, means below the arachnoid space and on top of the pia membrane. Arachnoid matter and the pia matter, like that. So the way to comprehend it is epithalamus, then hypothalamus. Okay, always remember this thing. So the thing is here, if you come to the descriptive point, what you can expect is the epithalamus is the roof of the diencephalon, I can say. Okay, and it is present just over the third ventricle. Okay, I'll just show you the epithalamus here. It is just present over the third ventricle, means in biological language I can call it, it is present superior to the third ventricle. Epithalamus, very important region. Epithalamus. Okay. Just look here. So this is the region of the epithalamus, region of the human brain. Okay, and you will be looking at the pineal gland also. I'll tell you what it does. Okay, so epithalamus is the region of the human brain. Okay, that contains various specific glands also. One of the main gland of epithalamus is the pineal gland, very important for any examination. The epithalamus contains one of the very important glands known as the pineal gland. And where is it present? In the posterior portion of the epithalamus, means at the back of the epithalamus. Anterior is front, posterior is back. Ventral, dorsal, you can say at the dorsal portion of the epithalamus, what you have is a pineal gland. Okay, I'll write it down. If you talk about epithalamus, at the posterior position of epithalamus, what you have is something known as pineal gland. Okay. Now this pineal gland does what? The pineal gland secretes a very important hormone known as melatonin. Okay. Melatonin hormone. Now, if we talk about melatonin hormone, it is not a very, you can say, expressive hormone in the sense that you may not have heard of it. Maybe you might have heard of it, but melatonin is important. Why? So, do you know what is the reason of us having melatonin? Anyone? Are you aware of this hormone, melatonin? Like the reason behind why we do possess melatonin. So melatonin is a hormone which is able to govern our circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythm means sleep-wake cycle. That is the meaning of that is the prime function of the melatonin hormone. Sleep-wake cycle, known as circadian rhythm. Now, what happens is you might have seen or you might have experienced something like you are. When do you become more? Yeah, Gayatri, you are correct. Sleep. So, when do you become more sleepy, at night or at day? Don't think that you are extremely tired. Okay, the tiredness issue is different. You become quite lackluster, lethargic, or you might have been too stressed up, worked out. Okay, those things are different. But just tell me, all of you, Pratham, Samesh, that when do you get more sleep? At night or at day, leaving that tiredness issue behind. Okay, suppose you have been sleeping well, but sir, my internet was lagging. Okay, so now is it fine, Gayatri? I think you can switch to the HD mode. If the HD is lacking 720, you can switch to okay 480. Yeah, night. Now, do you know the reason behind that? Why do you get more sleep at night? Like, why is night a thing of sleep or a magnificent time for us to go to sleep? Okay. Oh, you get sleep at daytime, Pratham. I feel sleepy at night mostly. Okay. So, Pratham, I'm not asking, like, I can also sleep at daytime, but the thing is, I was asking without any kind of, you can say, tiredness issue, or you have played so much gaming at night, not like, don't play games or don't exercise, you like follow a proper routine, then I don't think you will be feeling more sleepy at daytime or drowsy during the daytime. You will be feeling more drowsy during the night time. That's what like most of the people feel. Okay, so the thing is, during the daytime, what happens is we have more photons coming in. You might have studied the structure of atom chapter in chemistry. So equal to h nu, more and more energy of light comes in, more photons comes in, and the cornea, the retina will be illuminated, right, with the photons. And what happens is daylight. Yeah, daylight also governs melatonin. Okay, that governs, but that will suppress melatonin. Okay, night time will express. That's what I'm telling the mechanism here. So what happens is when you learn about circadian rhythm, okay, when you learn about circadian rhythm, it's quite different from any other type of biology. Okay, circadian rhythm means we think that only our brain sleeps. But let me tell you for your information that every cell of our body, okay, except the RBCs and platelets, which do not have nucleus, every other cell of our body which has got genes, which has got the nucleus, which will have the DNA, they have something known as clock genes. Okay, they have something known as clock genes. Always remember this fact. Okay, clock genes. I'll tell you what clock genes are. Since you're talking about the sleeping pattern, so you must know about the sleeping cycle and you must be curious to know about it also. So there is something known as clock gene. So clock means the full form is circadian, locomotor, output, cycles, caput. Okay, CACLOCK, clock gene. Okay, it's a basic, you can say, protein. This is a basic protein which is used for transcription of various genes, which will produce again various proteins. Okay, which are responsible for maintaining proper sleep. And each and every cell goes to sleep. Every cell in our body goes to sleep when these proteins are expressed. Always know that. Okay, always know that. Every cell goes to sleep when these proteins are expressed. Okay, so you have BMAL gene also. Okay, various genes are there, but they are not in your course really. Okay, so what happens is when we illuminate our retina, okay, with light, what happens is the light will then cause stimulation of a special cluster of neurons present in the hypothalamus, okay, present in the hypothalamus, and that cluster of neurons is known as SCN. SCN's full form is suprachiasmatic nucleus. Suprachiasmatic nucleus, cluster of neuronal cell bodies, I should be saying, cluster of neuronal cell bodies. Always remember. Now, what happens is this specific set of neuronal cell bodies then will stimulate, okay, various transcription of these clock genes, okay, and those will in turn stimulate the pineal gland. Those will in turn stimulate simply the pineal gland of or present at the posterior portion of the epithalamus, and stimulation of that pineal gland will cause synthesis of melatonin. Okay, will cause synthesis of melatonin. Okay, like we study past study studying after that. Yeah, it is a this thing biological clock, the sleep wake cycle or circadian rhythm. Okay, or slash your this thing biological cycle are the same things. So these cycles they need to be in sync always. Okay, they need to be in sync always. Otherwise, if you go out of sync, okay, then we suppose I will give you the best example of time zones. Okay, suppose you are traveling from here to US. What happens? What is the major most you can say significant side effect that you counteract when you travel? So if you ask anyone who has traveled like to US or Europe, like long term flights I'm talking about, okay, not short term flights like transatlantic, trans-Pacific type of flights. So if you look there, okay, if you have a look at those people or if you talk to those people, you will they'll tell you one thing to be very very precise, and that is their sleep wake cycle has been altered. They'll say that. Why? Suppose they took the flight or they boarded the flight at, you can say, at Indian time, you can say at night, okay, and when they are reaching US, okay, they are feeling that it should be day, but it is night again at US or in the USA. Okay, so that sleep wake cycle is completely gone. The melatonin is completely haywire in their system, and what they have is the sleep wake cycle is completely disturbed, completely distorted. So, like that, what you have is the sleep wake cycle is completely under haywire, and you have to again reset your sleep wake cycle, right? You may not get sleep for few days. You may go through a series of insomniatic events where you are not getting sleep whatsoever. Okay, whatsoever, you are not getting sleep at all. So don't even think of sleep at that point of time. Okay, so that is what you can think of when you think of the transatlantic or trans-Pacific flights, and people who have extreme, you can say, flight problems, or you can say, sorry, not flight problems, flight related, you can say, jobs like the players, the wrestlers, and also they suffer from some kind of neurological damage too in the long run. So that is all what they see. So what also happens is, once you have talked about this, so I'll tell you one more thing which is very interesting for you, known as reticular formation. Okay, so reticular formation means much of the brain stem means the midbrain pons medulla oblongata, much of the brain stems, it consists of small clusters of neuronal cell bodies, means the gray matter. Okay, interspersed among small bundles of myelinated axons or white matter. Okay, so the broad region where white matter and gray matter exhibit a net-like arrangement means like this, crumbled up. You can say gray matter, white matter, gray matter, white matter. That is known as reticular formation in case of neurology. Very, very important is, yeah, sleep schedule will get, yeah, Pratham, you are correct, jet lag. Okay, that is known as jet lag. So that is known as reticular formation. Okay, reticular formation. And once you have that reticular formation, again, what I'm trying to tell you is it extends from the top of spinal cord or the superior part of spinal cord throughout the brain stem, means from here it will go up throughout the brain stem, okay, and it will end at the end of the diencephalon. So if I draw like this, so suppose this is diencephalon, okay, this is your brain stem, this is your spinal cord, okay. So inferior diencephalon, from here gray white matter started through brainstem and ended, you can say superior means on top. Superior to spinal cord means top of spinal cord, superior to this, and inferior means down in case of biology. Okay. So this is the network of gray and white matter, the reticular fibers in case of human brain. Okay. Always remember this fact. Then what happens is neuron within this specific reticular fibers have both sensory and motor functions, and they form something known as reticular activating system. That is the, you can say, the sensory portion of this will form the reticular activating system, which will consist of only the sensory axons, okay, that project into the cerebral cortex. Okay, it may project directly or by bypassing the or through the, you can say, epithalamus or the, you can say, diencephalon region. And what happens is, I'll tell you one thing regarding the consciousness, like many sensory stimuli can activate the ascending portion of the reticular activating system. Okay, very interesting thing is, among these are, you can say, visual and auditory stimuli, like the mental activities or stimuli from, you can say, pain, touch, you can say pressure or receptor in our limbs and head, that keep us aware of the position of our body parts. Like even if I lift my hand like this, I'm not looking at the hand, but I know my hand is here. Okay, like that. So it all is coordinated process. So the most important function of the reticular formation is the consciousness. Consciousness is still a part of debate in the field of neurology. No one can define consciousness real time, not even I cannot define. Read so many papers till now, but still it's a huge debatable topic. But simply at your level, I can call it a state of wakefulness in which an individual is fully alert, aware, and oriented. Okay, so visual and auditory stimuli and mental activities can stimulate RAS to help maintain consciousness. Okay, so the RAS is also, you can say, active during the arousal or the awakening process from deep sleep. Okay, another feature of the reticular activating system is to maintain attention, that is concentration, which you need the most when you talk about, you can say, your own studies. Maintain attention, right? So the RAS also prevents sensory overload. So do you know what is sensory overload? Sensory overload is, if you are very good at studies, you may be knowing how to filter out insignificant information so that it does not reach your consciousness. I'll give you an example. Like while waiting in the hallway for, you can say, your anatomy class, which is the this class, suppose you are waiting at your school, suppose for me to come and teach, or your home, okay, or you are waiting in the hallway, suppose, so you may be unaware of all the noise around you while reviewing your notes for the class, because maybe people may be running around, walking, so there may be a lot of, you can say, disturbance, you can say, commotion all around you at that point in time, but you are not really able to detect or recognize all those things to, and your brain literally filters all those things out, and you are just looking at the notes, you are just revising that, and teacher will take your class, he may ask you something, and if you want to avoid any kind of, you can say, embarrassment, humiliation, then you must be able to answer. So you are just revising at the last point in time. You might have done it right before the examination, the last 5 minutes of study. That time anybody, your friend also says, hey, tell me something, tell you say, no, I don't know. You are just concentrating hard. And even if somebody falls and all, you wouldn't notice at that point in time. That is again a great thing regarding human brain. So in order for sleep to happen, what do you need? You need to inactivate the reticular activating system so that you go into sleep. And you might have also heard of coma. Okay, so coma means no consciousness. So no consciousness means the reticular activating system must be completely inactivated. Such an injury should happen that it becomes inactivated and you reach a state of coma directly. Okay, so sleep schedule distorted, yes, Gayatri. So the thing is, these things are all done by your brain. You might have heard of coma also, right? So in coma, the reticular activating system must be completely stopped or completely inactivated, ceased, right? And again, the reticular activating system is important for you to filter out that excessive thing. So better you are at concentration. You might have heard of great concentrators, like the, like if you even put them in a marriage thing, marriage festival, marriage carnival or something like that, they wouldn't give any kind of, you can say, they wouldn't pay heed to any kind of hassles going on. They would keep on studying in the marriage itself, like all the honking and all going on, but nothing will affect them because the reticular activating system has been trained so well, and that can only happen by training, not by dumbbell exercise, but by mental training, meditation, that you say, that you can be able to, or you can enable yourself to filter out whatever extra noise that you think is extra. So you will be able to put all your concentration where it should directly belong, right? So that is again the reticular activating system for you, and that needs to be little bit inactivated if you want to attain sleep, but completely inactivated once you are thinking of or even trying for, you can say, the, or completely inactivated if you are putting someone in an induced coma, or he has undergone a certain kind of very unfortunate accident or injury, okay, that he had to be put in coma. Okay, so those things are very, very delicate in nature. Okay, so always know that fact. Okay, so the thing is, this is all about your, you can say, epithalamus. Okay, now if we come to the hypothalamus, okay, the hypothalamus, we know that again it's a small part of the diencephalon, and that is located inferior to the thalamus. Always know that that is located inferior to the thalamus. Always know. Now it is composed of many nuclei. Okay, those nuclei I'll not tell because those are not in your syllabus, but it is composed of many types of, you can say, neuronal cell body cluster. Okay, so 2 3 things I'll tell you. Okay, what it does is it controls the, you can say, the secretion of oxytocin and vasopressin. So these two hormones, vasopressin is also known as ADH, antidiuretic hormone, that comes in your NEET examination. Okay, so I'll tell you about the this function. So this function is controlled by the supraoptic nuclei and the paraventricular nuclei. Two nuclei which are asked in NEET examination from here are the supraventricular and paraventricular. Okay, or you can say supraoptic and, you can say, paraventricular nucleus. So you have the supraoptic region which is present in the hypothalamus, okay, nucleus present in the hypothalamus. You have the paraventricular, only these two come in the NEET examination. Okay. Paraventricular nucleus. Rest you have a lot of other nuclei. Okay, you have the mammary nuclei, you have the preoptic region, you have the tuberal region, but those will not be coming in your, those will not be asked in detail in your NEET examination also, so we won't go into those details. But the supraoptic nucleus and the paraventricular nucleus, they are responsible for, you can say, the release of the two hormones known as vasopressin, also known as ADH in kidney, okay, antidiuretic hormone, and also oxytocin. Okay. So these are also released with some other hormones. You have neurohypophysin, which is released with oxytocin. Okay, vasopressin is also a very complex hormone, but this much you should be knowing as per your NEET syllabus. And also hypothalamus causes release of various releasing hormones you might have heard of. Various releasing hormones are secreted by the hypothalamus. Okay, like you have growth hormone releasing hormone, you have adrenocorticotropic releasing hormone. So many releasing hormones are also secreted. You have, you can say, thyrotropin releasing hormone. So many releasing hormones are controlled or are secreted by the hypothalamus as well. Okay, so that is one thing. And then regulation of emotional and behavioral patterns, that is also done by hypothalamus. So you have something known as the limbic system. Okay, limbic system and hypothalamus, what they do is they participate in the expression of rage, then aggression, then pain, okay, then empathy, then pleasure, okay, behavioral patterns, then all these kinds of patterns along with the limbic system is also there, which is the emotional, you can say, epicenter of the brain. But hypothalamus along with this thing, they control the entire emotion. One more thing regarding the hypothalamus that you can say is regulation of eating and drinking. Okay, it contains the feeding center, satiety center, thirst center. Okay, hypothalamus. Okay, feeding center that it contains. Then it contains satiety center. Then it contains the thirst center. So many things it contains. Okay. Again, control of body temperature, very, very important. The hypothalamus functions as the body's natural thermostat. Never forget these things. Okay. It functions as the body's natural thermostat. Hypothalamus. So during fever, you have a specific molecule known as interleukin 1, IL-1, which binds to hypothalamus and resets the clock. Okay, it will increase the temperature of the hypothalamus. Sorry, what will it do is the hypothalamus clock. Okay, the center or the temperature. Okay, what when your body temperature increases. Okay, what will you do for, you can say, as a hypothalamic part, why do you go for shivering? Okay, once we go for shivering, okay, so what it does is it resets and it increases the body temperature. Okay, when it has increased the body temperature, the body's reaction is to make you shiver, tremble, okay, you can say move, and by causing friction, you are causing friction like this, trembling, you are causing again, you can say, beating of the teeth, collision. So all this is doing what? This dragging friction is doing what? It is causing the emanation or generation of energy, the generation of heat in joules. So that heat will in turn increase your body temperature, but the effect is you are trembling. Okay, so that is the roundabout way how your temperature keeps on getting increased, keeps on increasing in the case of fever, because it contains the, you can say, the main, you can say, thermostat of the human brain. Very, very important. Thermostat of the human brain. One more thing, regulation of circadian rhythm that I told you, and state of consciousness that I was telling. So I told you already that the suprachiasmatic nucleus of the hypothalamus, it serves as the body's internal biological clock because it establishes the circadian rhythm. So you can call it biological clock. Okay, you can call it biological clock. You can call it circadian rhythm. You can call it the sleep wake cycle. Okay, it depends on you what you call it. Okay, but the hypothalamus is responsible, it is accountable for establishing the circadian rhythm patterns of biological activity, which is the sleep wake cycle. Always remember that occurs on a circadian schedule, which is the cycle of 24 hours. So this suprachiasmatic nucleus, as I told you, will receive input from the retina of the eyes and sends output to the other hypothalamic nuclei, the entire reticular activating system, and also the pineal gland. Always remember this thing. Okay, always remember. So then melatonin is secreted by the pineal gland. Also, in case of patients suffering from insomnia, melatonin can be recommended by doctors to be taken orally. Okay, when melatonin is taken orally, it appears to contribute to again the setting of the body's biological clock by inducing sleep and helping the body again to adjust jet lag, especially if you have had suffering or if you have been suffering from jet lag because you have been traveling too frequently, then you might consider taking prescription pills of melatonin. You can say for 3 to 4 days or maximum a week, but don't get completely dependent on it because otherwise you may have to be on it for a longer period of time and quitting it may result in the worsening of the insomnia. Okay, that could also happen. So that is also there. Okay, so this is the entire way that the body goes for sleep. One more thing that I'll tell you is melatonin, which I was talking about. So melatonin is secreted, it is produced how? It is produced from the amino acid tryptophan. Again, remember this thing for NEET examination. So tryptophan is the amino acid that is the precursor for melatonin. So in biochemistry, if you see, I'll draw the biochemical reaction. It depends upon you if you want to know or not, but I'll draw it for your reference how it happens. Okay, so first is the hydroxylation reaction. Okay, hydroxylase. What you get is you get something known as 5-hydroxytryptophan. 5-hydroxytryptophan. So this reaction, it depends upon you, but I'm just giving you the pathway. Then you go for decarboxylation. Okay, you take out the CO2 group. Okay, you add here the OH group, hydroxylase. You take out the CO2 group here. Okay, decarboxylation. Okay. Now 5-hydroxytryptophan will become, you can say, serotonin. Okay, or 5-hydroxytryptamine known as serotonin. Okay, later on the serotonin will be converted via another reactions, then you will get melatonin. Okay, so these two biochemical reactions I'm not writing because the enzymatic reactions, the enzymes are too long to be explained, but here you can see that here OH group is being added, CO2 is removed, you get this hormone. This is also known as a happy hormone in itself, right? You might have heard of serotonin, which is again a neurotransmitter also, the chemical released from the neurons, neurotransmitter. Okay, so the precursor always is asked in exam. So tryptophan is the precursor of serotonin, melatonin, whereas tyrosine, okay, tyrosine is another amino acid which is the precursor of epinephrine, okay, norepinephrine, and dopamine. These three neurotransmitters are also collectively known as catecholamines in neurology. Okay, and this is again these three are the great neat questions. Okay, catecholamines and you can say the dopamine. So this is known as hypothalamus. Okay, so we have talked about the epithalamus again. So now we can talk about the thalamus region. Okay, so once you talk about the thalamus region, okay, so always remember that thalamus is the relay center. Okay, it is the relay center between the you can say epithalamus and hypothalamus. Always remember it is the relay center between the epithalamus and hypothalamus. That's the main role of the thalamus part or the thalamus system. Okay, so that is the maximum thing that can be asked from the thalamus region. Then we come to the limbic system of the human brain, which is the emotional system. Many times questions are asked, very small questions are asked in NEET exam. Limbic system. So limbic system is a group of various nuclei of the neurons. Simply you can say that functions in emotion, motivation, and also memory. Okay, so limbic system is a very small topic. Okay, but we cannot ignore it since our aim is to clear NEET examination. So limbic system mostly for emotions, okay? Various types of emotions, okay? Memory also sometimes, okay? And then type of motivation that you need, that you feel motivated, or if I motivate you, okay, you feel motivated like that. So motivation, okay, you're able to feel motivation via limbic system. Okay, so the limbic system is a functional group rather than an you can say anatomical one. It's a mainly a functional group. The function of limbic system, you can just see the function. Number one is establish the emotional state. Establish emotional state. Okay. Then what is the other function? You can say linking the consciousness, okay, of the cerebral cortex with the unconscious and autonomic functions of the brain stem. Very, very important. Linking the consciousness. It is like a linker of the top of the cerebrum, that is the cerebral cortex, okay, to the autonomic system of the brain stem. Means it will connect the autonomic brain stem. Means it will connect the cerebral cortex to the brain stem. That is again it's one of the primary functions. Then one more function that I'll tell you is facilitate memory storage and retrieval. Very, very important. Facilitate memory storage and retrieval. So these are the prime functions of the limbic system, nothing else. Okay, this is the prime function of the limbic system. We should always know about this fact. Okay, so the limbic system also controls you can say various other you can say parts of the cerebrum also. So one of the cerebral part is known as the amygdala. So I don't know, have you heard of not amygdala? So amygdala is a part of the cerebrum. It is sometimes known as the amygdaloid nucleus, which is very, very interesting, which is responsible for fear. So in many participants, it has been found in many patients that if amygdala is removed or it becomes dysfunctional, the feel of fear, the feel of scares or getting scared, okay, the feeling of scariness, the feeling of getting, you can say, terrified, frightened, it weans off just if you take the amygdala off. It is known as amygdala. Okay, that is just for your interest. Okay, so kind of it will generate more interest in you. Most of the sleeping pills, Gayatri, are not orally induced melatonin. What they do is, I'll tell you, because in later classes when I'll start teaching the neuron and neurotransmitter, then you'll be able to understand a bit more. Melatonin will induce sleep, okay? But the thing is, for sleep to completely happen, like what you need is understanding of the theory of the current propagation in case of the neurons. Current propagation means if you want your sleep to happen, do you want the neurons to keep communicating? No, you want them to sit quietly, right? In simple layman term. The thing is, if you hyperpolarize it, so it will not go for depolarization. Okay, so there is a neurotransmitter which hyperpolarizes the postsynaptic neuron known as GABA. Okay, known as GABA, gamma amino butyric acid, GABA. Okay. So most of the sleeping pills known as tranquilizers like alprazolam are analogs of GABA, which will the GABA bind to the GABA receptor on the postsynaptic neuron and cause same hyperpolarization and put the current to, you can say, stop, or it will cease the flow of the current, right? And then to the next neuron from this postsynaptic, it will not cause any neurotransmitter release onto the next neuron. So the neurons will be put at a place of rest, you can say. Okay, so that is again the meaning of going into deep sleep. And if these don't work, sometimes these don't work, sometimes they'll work in the beginning, but once you get habitualized, they stop working, and then we switch to melatonin. Then melatonins also, they lead to the resistance. Okay, then you switch on to hypnotics. Okay, last way is switch to hypnotics. Okay, you have something known as zolpidem. That is the best drug used by the US military also, because once you fly F-22 Raptors, F-35 Lightning air combat vehicles, they fly it at 2 to 5 Mach, the speed of sound into that, 5 times the speed of sound. So you produce the centripetal force or acceleration due to gravity of 10 g. That really takes a toll on your brain, and then they cannot get sleep. Okay, because of that much acceleration they have to endure. So they are prescribed this zolpidem hypnotic on regular basis, the pilots of India, of United States, everywhere. Okay, because they cannot get sleep, and without sleep they'll die. Okay, so the pilots are recommended, they are prescribed the most intense sleep medication or sleep inducing medication of the hypnotic class. Hypnotic means you will be like completely, you are losing your consciousness. So that you will be non-receptive or non-responsive to this melatonin and GABA. These won't work. You will directly require the hypnotic. So that is their job, but that's why a lot of respect to them. So that is how they attain sleep, right? So one more thing I'll tell you about the brain waves. Okay, while you sleep, brain wave types. So if you go for EEG, there is something known as EEG, just like ECG, electroencephalogram. Okay, encephalo means brain. Okay. Studying the brain activity. Okay, electroencephalogram, like the electrocardiogram, you learn about electroencephalogram. So what happens is we have various types of brain waves. Okay, so I'll just show you the figure also if I have it. Let me see if I can get the figure of the brain waves. Brain waves. EEG. So this is how the normal adult brain waves look. You can see here. Okay. You can see beta wave, alpha wave, theta wave, delta wave. You can see these waves, right? So these are the waves which are normally present. The four waves are there. Mostly there are seven waves. Okay, if you think of it, you have seven waves. You have infra low waves. You have delta wave. Okay, you have alpha wave. You have, you can say, theta wave is given. Yeah, you have the theta wave also. Okay, you have then gamma wave also, which is not given here. So these waves you do have. So delta wave is, you can say, below 3.5. 3.5 means its range is zero point 0.5 to 3.5 hertz. Okay, that is the frequency of delta wave. They are very very slow, right? The waves are very very slow, and you can say they are generated in deepest meditation. You can think of generated in deepest meditation and in very very deep sleep. Whereas theta wave, you will see the frequency growing, okay, increasing. So they'll be generated when you are really sleeping, okay. And then you will be going on to the alpha wave. Alpha wave is 8 to 12, 8 to 13, okay. And beta wave, you can say, is 14 to 30. It could be 12 to 38 hertz also. Like when I'm teaching you, right, my mental activity is at its highest level, so I'm using, my brain is making or synthesizing. If you go through the EEG of my brain right now, you will see a lot of beta waves currently, okay. And but if I'm just awake and resting like this, just I'm thinking something, okay, not teaching, not shouting, not yelling, just thinking something or daydreaming, but eyes are open, I am conscious, okay, that time you will be looking, or the EEG will show you more of alpha waves. The EEG will be alpha wave dominant, okay. And when I'm in, you can say, just light sleep, that time I'll be showing the theta wave. Then sleep also is of two types, if you see. You have REM sleep, rapid eye movement, you have non-rapid eye movement sleep. Non-rapid eye movement is the delta wave. When you do not do like this, you do not move your eyes, you do not, you can say, blink your eyes. Rapid eye movement means you are sleeping but you are blinking your eyes, but it's unknown to you. Means it's a light sleep, okay? You can call it shallow sleep, light sleep, okay? That time you will be making theta waves. So you have a sleep wake cycle. This sleep cycle is also there. First we delve into REM, then we have a long non-REM sleep, then again we have REM sleep, and then we finally wake up. So that's the entire cycle which is with regards to the sleep 2. Okay. So that is your sleeping pattern causing, you can say, the sleep to be perpetuated in the long run. Okay. So next we can talk about the, you can say, cerebellum we had talked about, I think. Okay. Now we can talk about the next part of the human brain, which is a very very important part. Okay. It is given in NCRT in a very very short level, known as basal nuclei. In NCRT it's given as basal ganglia, okay. But why I'm calling it basal nuclei is because in 2018 only the nomenclature has changed. So I'm calling it basal nuclei. In NCRT we'll find it as basal ganglia, okay. So our next topic is basal ganglia. It was called a basal ganglia quite earlier, but now its name has been changed to basal nuclei. Okay. So basal nuclei, when you talk about, okay, so deep within each cerebral hemisphere, means you have two cerebral hemispheres. So deep within each cerebral hemispheres, there are again cluster of neuronal cell bodies. And why will we call it ganglia? Because I told you cluster of cell bodies in the CNS, means brain and spinal cord, is known as nuclei. So they have to be nuclei. So historically they was called, it was known as ganglia, but due to this technical reason its name has been changed to basal nuclei. Okay. So historically they were called as ganglia, but it's a, you can call, this is a misnomer, you can call, because ganglion is what? A ganglion is an aggregate of neuronal cell bodies in the peripheral nervous system. Okay, by definition, if you see nucleus, is an aggregate of neuronal cell bodies in the you can say CNS, whereas a ganglion, okay, is an aggregate of neuronal cell bodies in the peripheral nervous system. That's why calling it a basal ganglia would be a misnomer. Okay, so it's known as basal nuclei from now on. Okay, so there is a book known as Terminologica Anatomica. So that is the gold standard of any anatomical term. You can search it on Google. So that book and that association has the final say on correct anatomical terminology. So they have corrected it as or corrected it to be basal ganglia from now on. So now you have you can say various parts of basal ganglia. I'll just tell you the parts. The function is not in your course. The part could be asked in NEET examination. Okay. So two of the basal ganglia are known as okay globus pallidus and the putamen. Okay. So I'll just tell you the parts of the basal nuclei: globus pallidus and putamen. Okay, these are the parts of the basal nuclei. I'll just tell them their entire function collectively. Okay. Now together the globus pallidus and putamen, they are referred to as lentiform nucleus. Okay, they are referred to as lentiform nucleus. So this is the first nucleus. Okay, lentiform nucleus in NEET examination. It is made up of globus pallidus and putamen region. Okay. Then next up is the next nucleus in line. Okay, after the lentiform nucleus, the third of the basal nuclei is the caudate nucleus. Okay, these two are one, two. They are known as this one. The third one is the caudate nucleus. Okay, and then you can call the lentiform nucleus and caudate nucleus together. Okay, as the corpus striatum. You can call this as corpus striatum, the lentiform nucleus and caudate nuclei. If you just match them together, you can call them corpus striatum. Okay, so that is what you can call them. So what happens is, and the last nuclei is known as the claustrum. Claustrum, claustrum. So this entire thing forms the basal nuclei. This is the basal nuclei. Its function is very, very, you can say, fundamental. The function is to receive input from the cerebral cortex and provide output to the motor parts of the cortex. Okay, so that all the functions can be attributed well, and to also control the thalamus region. Then it will be able to transmit its its you can say neurotransmitters signals to the epithalamus and hypothalamus. So it is like the center, you can say, which will coordinate the entire brain. That's why cerebrum is called the coordinating center of the entire brain, because it does contain basal nuclei. And one thing that I'm calling here claustrum, okay, this one claustrum, that is the center of memory integration, you can say, because we have 86 billion neurons in the CNS, right? So suppose we have memory integration. So suppose some neurons here are storing something or have stored something I want to recall. So all the neurons, the information from all the neurons will be integrated at one place, analyzed, and then I am telling you what I know. So that is the colostrum, and the colostrum's existence has been proved in mice brain, okay, and in human brain the research is still ongoing. So colostrum is the memory integration where all the signals pertaining to memory recall, they integrate, they combine together and form a concrete, substantial, you can say, statement which comes out from the mouth of the speaker. Okay, so that is the work of the colostrum. The basal nucleus work is simple, one line answer if it comes in your examination, that it receives the sensory output, okay, from the cerebral cortex and decides all kinds of memory outputs. Simply you can write like this, and for NEET examination only you should know the parts of the basal nuclei. But in NEET examination, they can also call it basal ganglia because it goes as per the NCERT. But for your knowledge, I told you, now the basal nuclei is known as basal ganglia only. Okay, but calling it ganglia would not be correct. Okay, would not be correct technically. So technically, it is called as basal nuclei. Okay. So any doubts in today's class? Any kind of queries? Anyone? Any clarifications that you may require? Any clarifications, queries regarding the great human brain, so amazing human brain, memory retrieval, coma? So I touched upon all the topics that you could be interested in, okay, in today's class. Then arousal, then how you filter the information or filter the noise, the chaos happening around you when you concentrate, right? So if you have any doubts remaining, you can definitely contact me on my personal number. Okay, okay, Gayatri. So keep keep studying well and clarify your doubts as always. And let's meet you in the next class. Thanks a lot.